thinking right now, she's done it again, folks. Meghan Markle has had a spectacular falling out with one of her former BFFs. And this guy, Edward Enninful, one of the most influential men in the woke media because he was the editor of Vogue, and he's friends with all of the celebrities. Not usually a big fan of this guy, but in this case, let me tell you, after hearing personally about Meghan's behaviour behind the scenes with dealing with Vogue, I'm actually going to back him on this one.
Celebrity drama alert. Did Meghan Markle just torch her biggest fashion bridge? Let's find out. Meghan Markle made history as the first person to guest edit British Vogue's iconic September issue. She spotlighted 15 influential women under the theme Forces for Change. Edward Enninful, Vogue's legendary editor-in-chief, called it a dream collaboration at first, but behind the polished cover was reportedly months of tension, late-night rewrites, and heated disagreements on content and tone. What started as admiration quickly turned to frustration.
So we're going to get analysis from Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, in just one moment. But first, let me take you through this new reporting from the Daily Mail. They write, the Duchess of Sussex and the former editor of British Vogue, Edward Enninful, were once inseparable. So much so that Meghan recalled after guest editing the Fashion Bible 6 years ago that they were, quote, like-minded thinkers who enjoyed philosophizing over steaming cups of mint tea. Today, however, they are no longer on speaking terms, and the reason for the fallout has remained one of fashion's most tightly guarded secrets. But the Mail on Sunday can now reveal that their friendship imploded during a disagreement over how Vogue planned to feature a glossy showcase of Meghan and Prince Harry's charitable work. The coverage, designed to tie in with Meghan's keynote appearance at the One Young World Summit in Manchester in September 2022, would have involved extensive features across the magazine and its digital editions, but Condé Nast insiders claim it was abruptly pulled and scrapped completely. The whole process became very difficult. Edward could only promise her a big showy feature inside the magazine and online, but she turned it down. According to insiders, the project needed a full production team, including photographers, videographers, stylists, and editors, to shoot exclusive images and film an in-depth video feature with the Sussex. Sources claim that after Mr. Enninful explained he had another cover in mind, Meghan's team had asked if the couple could feature on Vogue's special digital cover instead, which is released alongside the print edition. But again, it is understood that Mr. Enninful declined. He didn't think it was appropriate to give her the cover, the source explained. It was then that Meghan's team pulled the plug. Relations between the pair never recovered. A source said the Duchess and her team had high expectations, were expecting that she might get a print cover or at least a digital cover out of it, but Enninful was not able to meet those expectations. He already had a magazine cover in the bag for that month. Shelving the project is said to have caused irreparable damage to their friendship. Edward was furious to have lost the project, as were the powers that be at Condé Nast. Sources added that during the years that followed, Mr. Enninful has increased his public involvement with the royal family and claimed this is not something Meghan could easily overlook, particularly as he was initially supportive in her now infamous Meg said Oprah Winfrey interview. But he was awarded a CVE in 2016 for his services to diversity in the fashion industry. He's now a trustee for the King's Fund, King Charles's charity, and he interviewed the monarch for Vogue when he was still the Prince of Wales in 2020. He even attended the coronation in 2023. Tellingly, Mr. Enninful follows all three of the King's charitable organisations on Instagram, but does not follow Meghan or any of her enterprises. She was also said not to have been invited to a glittering black tie gala in New York earlier this month for the King's Trust, which was hosted by Mr. Enninful. There is no way she was invited, said a source that was Edward's American celebrity alternative to the Met Gala. Previously, of course, though, he had called her a brave woman and described her treatment as very unfair and harsh. And indeed, they had an almost like icky, fake relationship.
Breaking news. Meghan Markle has now fallen out with Edward Enninful, the former editor-in-chief of British Vogue, in what insiders are calling another Meghan PR disaster. According to royal sources, Meghan was promised a feature but wanted the cover. When she didn't get her way, she pulled the entire project, leading to a complete breakdown in their relationship.
So, Edward's just been muckled, Brittany. He should have learnt his lesson. Now, I remember doing a lot of reporting at the time on that Vogue magazine cover that she guest edited, and everyone at Condé Nast Towers could not stand her, Brittany. She was rude, she was difficult, she was demanding, she was unrealistic. But what's interesting is that Edward Enninful was keeping the friendship going despite all of that. But even he could not overlook her terrible behavior.
Too, especially looking at the issue itself. I mean, I'm sure it was one of their best sellers, but it's fascinating to think and look back now at their appearance in Manchester because they had their favorite photographer there to take pictures of them. And so now it makes a lot more sense that they remember they had this pose and it was like black, and they had one in black and white where they're like looking ahead and then she's looking at the camera and he's looking away. And so they had a couple of these pictures and it was clearly probably for that Vogue feature. And Vogue was like, no, we worked with you before and that was a disaster. And although the issue sold well, Meghan just tends to burn bridges. She creates some of these friendships, but because of her demands, because of her unreasonableness, people check out. And that's exactly what happened to Edward. He's like, I'm not going to deal with this. We told her this is what it's going to be. And Meghan, very foolishly, I might add, gave away a huge opportunity for PR because she couldn't be on the cover, so she didn't want them to cover her at all. That's a terrible practice in terms of PR. Like, they were going to give her a glowing article. Just let them do it. Why be so incredibly difficult? But Meghan, unless she can be queen, unless she can be the star, she doesn't want any part of almost anything.
It's really interesting though, isn't it, Brittany? Because Edward Enninful initially lent in to Meghan's criticism, you know, her sort of claims of racism in the royal family. But this shows you how despicable the woke mob really are. He didn't actually believe it. When there was a binary choice between, well, you get to stay back in Meghan Markle, who, let's be honest, is a total bitch behind the scenes, has treated your staff appallingly, so you get to stay there, or there's this other route, and this other route involves you interviewing Charles, hosting official events for the king, attending the king's coronation. He put his morals, his social justice warrior instincts to one side because deep down, even woke-topians like Edward Enninful still want that proximity to the royal family.
Meghan's brand thrives on influence and image. Falling out with someone as powerful as Edward Enninful could have serious consequences, especially in fashion and media. Edward is deeply respected. A feud with him may make others think twice before working with Meghan again. Was it a creative clash or a personality mismatch?
It's 100% a Hollywood thing too. Like, in that sort of industry, everybody tries to keep their relationships close, even if they don't particularly like the person. Like, you'll notice pretty much every celebrity talks up another celebrity, and it's like, I bet you half of that is complete BS because they just want to keep that door open. And he was willing to do it for a while and go along with her bandwagon. But I think as time has proven, Meghan's claims of racism were just, in my opinion, completely false, or just completely taken out of context what people were actually talking about, and she wildly overreacted. And when it comes to actual power, that resides with the crown. Harry and Meghan are just a toxic miasma. Like, if you come into their orbit, you are dragged into the toxicity. That's why it's so important to stay away from it. Even if you like them, don't publicly associate because you get wrapped up in their stuff, and it never goes well for anybody.
What's that word, Brittany? The toxic
miasma.
Oh, I like
I think if it's like a kind of like a fog or something. I think it's from Japan. It's like miasma. And it's kind of like a toxic fog. That's what they are.
Let that sink in. Instead of accepting a glowing piece in one of the most prestigious magazines in the world, Meghan reportedly threw it away because it wasn't about her enough. Sound familiar? Once again, Meghan's obsession with control and the spotlight destroyed what could have been a massive PR win.
They so are. No, I love that. That is such a good description, Brittany. I never heard that before. And the thing is, he should also, well, people should think very carefully before they defend them too, because what it means they're defending lies. And this could have come back to bite him on the bum, because initially Edward Enninful called her a brave woman, described the treatment of her as very unfair and harsh. But it was obvious, Brittany, he didn't fully believe it, because he said he wouldn't just blame it on racism, adding, I think sometimes it takes a minute to understand the rules And the point is, he definitely wouldn't be defending her again now, would he? Knowing what she's
Right.
like.
And if you think about it, Harry, a couple years after that Oprah Winfrey interview, blamed the British press for saying that Harry and Meghan were calling the royal family racist. And I'm like, no, Harry, that was like, you guys were, I mean, they tiptoed barely, but like that's what Oprah ran with. It was like the American press. And so when Harry walks back what they said 2 years later, I mean, they always kind of walk back what they say when it's no longer convenient for them. So it's best for you to just never even engage in that, because you get wrapped up. What if Harry and Meghan walk it back again? What if they admit they weren't telling the truth again? And then you get trapped in that with them. That's why it's just, I think, so important for any public figures out there, for the most part, is just keep the distance. It's better for everyone, seemingly, if you do, because you just get wrapped up in the Harry and Meghan stuff, and it just, when it would be better just to be attached to the royal family. That's what most people have figured out. They want to be attached to the royals, not Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan don't have much to offer.
Totally. And the royals aren't going to screw you over like that. They're not going to lie. They're not going to play games. Being associated with the royal family, Brittany, it's only upside. Being associated with Harry and Meghan now, it is only a whole load of downsides. But look, I want to move on to Prince Harry's latest crazy bid to censor the free press. Now, this is in regards to the fact that he was named by The Sun on The Sun newspaper's front page in connection to the P. Diddy case. And what's emerged via The Guardian is that Prince Harry claimed that The Sun named him in the Sean Combs sex trafficking case as retaliation to his lawsuits. Let me take you through this article summarized by the Daily Telegraph, which writes, in newly disclosed court documents seen by The Guardian, Prince Harry claimed the tabloid newspaper was motivated by revenge when it published a front-page story in 2024 associating him with the high-profile music mogul's trial. The Sun story was said by the Duke to be among a large number of false and highly derogatory articles published by Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers in retaliation for his claims of unlawful information gathering and phone hacking against its titles. The Sun article linking him to Combs' now ongoing trial in the US is a March 27, 2024 report that Harry had been named in the £24 million sex trafficking lawsuit filed against the US rapper. It ran under the headline Harry named in P. Diddy sex traffic case. The story was also reported in the Telegraph at the time. The story went on to claim that bombshell legal filings alleged Diddy used Harry's name to give legitimacy to wild parties where serious illegal activity took place. The Duke has only met Combs once in 2007 at the end of a memorial concert for his late mother. NGN denies his claims about the motivation behind the story, adding that the article was accurate and The Sun publishes stories about the Duke of Sussex which are justified because of the role he holds and the actions he has taken. Harry's claims were contained in a Schedule to his skeleton argument over alleged unlawful behaviour at NGN's newspaper. In it, his lawyers alleged that since issuing his claim on the 27th of September 2019, NGN has published in The Sun or The Sun on Sunday a large number of false and highly defamatory articles about the DOS, plainly in retaliation, including articles that suggested he has somehow betrayed his family, has lied about them to garner sympathy, is a traitor to his country, and perhaps most damaging of all, has been named in a high-profile sex trafficking case. Well, I'm sorry, Brittany. If we go through all of those stories, I've reported on all of them. I'm pretty sure you have as well. And I would argue that they are all true. I mean, let me go through them. He has betrayed his family. He has lied about them to garner sympathy. I believe, this is my opinion, and I think I can back it up, that he is a traitor to his country. And the reality is, Brittany, he was named in the P. Diddy sex trafficking case. So, in my opinion, if you look at those stories individually, this is a clear example of Harry trying to muzzle the press, Brittany, and I think that is so wrong.
Here's the real tea. Edward Ininful, who once called Meghan brave and stood by her after the Oprah interview, is now fully Team Royal. He's attending Charles's coronation, supporting royal charities, and even interviewed the king for Vogue. But Meghan? He doesn't even follow her or Archewell on Instagram anymore. That's how bad the fallout was. It's a textbook example of how Meghan's behind-the-scenes behavior is causing her Hollywood and high society allies to jump ship. From royal ally to royal exile.
It definitely is. Harry and Meghan hate the press. I mean, they love the press and they hate it because they want the press to write glowing and wonderful and amazing stories about them all the time. What they hate is when the press holds them to account. And I remember covering that P. Diddy Harry connection, and it was part of a lawsuit filed by a former employee. So it wasn't totally, it might have been somewhat wrapped up in the bigger Diddy trial that's going on right now. But it was really about this employee just decided to name drop Harry a couple of times in his court documents. And I don't think really there is a connection there. But the reason that story exists, the reason so many negative stories about Harry exist, is because he started it. He started this negative narrative about himself. And unfortunately, once the train is going, it's very hard to get it to stop. And Harry and Meghan have done terrible things. They have abandoned his family. They have tarnished them or tried to across mainstream media. And so because of that, negativity about them tends to sell and positivity doesn't. And most of the time, everything you can read about them is true. It just doesn't, there's not a lot positive to talk about with Harry and Meghan, especially now, because even if their so-called charity stuff is all about themselves. And it's not really, I don't think, helpful to the families when it comes to the Parents Network or anything like that. They're all only in it for their own bank account. And so bringing all that together, yeah, Harry, the stories will be negative. It's what sells, number one. But number two, you have become the negative toxicity in your own life. And you're the one who's going to have to take responsibility for that. It's not the press. It's you. You started it.
This feud is a stark reminder that image isn't everything. Relationships matter.
But I would argue, actually, the British press are pretty nervous, actually, especially The Sun and the Daily Mail, about covering a lot of negativity around Prince Harry, because they know that he'll sue. They know that he's so legally trigger happy. And the problem is, Brittany, there's so much libel tourism in the United Kingdom. I won't bore anyone with the details now, but trust me, it means that you can be caught up in completely spurious lawsuits, which you still have to defend against someone like Prince Harry. And that costs millions. And Harry has nothing else to do, seemingly, apart from tying others up in completely spurious lawsuits costing millions. He seems to get off on it. So that's one of the reasons why here on Outspoken, I argue that I cover a lot of the stories that the royal rota simply will not touch anymore, because Harry's lawfare, and trust me, it is lawfare, has actually been pretty successful. But Brittany, you've got some interesting takes on this Brexit story, which The Sun revealed last week, which is this growing relationship between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz. So let me just take you through what you published on this, and I'll get more from you on it. You wrote, Harry and Meghan run to People magazine in order to try and twist a narrative to their side. They're claiming it was an intimate VIP party with Hollywood executives where Brooklyn and Nicola weren't directly invited but somehow showed up, which makes zero sense. I thought Harry and Meghan were so worried about their security, so how did Brooklyn and Nicola gate crash then? Makes zero sense. I mean, the story overall of them hosting Hollywood executives makes no sense, as Harry and Meghan have nothing to offer. That should have been made appallingly clear at this point. But it's been clear for a long time that Meghan is good at pitching BS without ever being able to stick the landing. Perhaps more of her trying to salvage what they can from their failing careers. The whole thing is just odd. And Brooklyn and Nicola, if they were smart, would just stay away. Nothing good comes from associating with Harry and Meghan. And the thing is, yes, People magazine tried to spin this story, Brittany, but to me, the fundamentals of the story were still true. Like, Brooklyn and Nicola would not have shown up and would not have sought this advice about how to deal with the fallout from their family if it hadn't been encouraged by Harry and Meghan. And I would put money on the fact, Brittany, that this has leaked out via Harry and Meghan. Because if you look at all of the initial source quotes that were briefed to The Sun, it was all about trying to make Meghan and Harry look good as if they were there to support them. But critically, it was also about seeking revenge against the Beckhams, specifically Meghan seeking revenge against Victoria Beckham. So sure, there might have been some other weird details around the dinner, But it doesn't really matter. Although, as you say, I'm very interested how they're even managing to get these Hollywood executives in their attendance at all. I guess out of curiosity, because people just want to see what's going on in their weird lives.
Meghan is now being ghosted by the elite circles she once courted. It's official, insiders at Condé Nast describe Meghan as demanding, rude, and out of touch, confirming what royal staff have said for years. She wanted creative control, special treatment, and her way or no way. Edward Ninful kept the friendship going as long as he could, but eventually even he said enough is enough. And remember, the issue she guest edited sold extremely well. But apparently, success isn't enough for Meghan unless she's the one on the cover, calling the shots and being worshipped. It's the Meghan effect, high-profile connections that start strong and end in flames.
Well, Netflix definitely is keeping with them. It boggles the mind at this point. But when it comes to this Nicola and Brooklyn thing, I could 100% see Meghan trying to get back at Victoria and David by bringing them there, having them have this conversation. But I mean, Harry and Meghan are the worst people to ask about family strife because they haven't mended anything. Like if you have a family situation, you want advice of how to deal with a difficult relative or something, like talk to somebody who has had that situation and then figure out how to manage and get out of it. Harry and Meghan are still mired in it. And as far as we're aware, they were trying to, I thought Brooklyn and Nicola were doing better with David and Victoria, but apparently, again, we had some sort of another bust up. But Meghan definitely wants anybody who has a sympathetic ear to her, and I think she could definitely find that in Brooklyn and Nicola. And unfortunately for them, I don't think that's going to go super well. They're not going to be particularly helpful, but it kind of reinforces, I'm sure, already for the Beckhams, the younger Beckhams, their kind of stance of, oh, we got to keep the toxic family away. It's just all very sad. But I think Meghan in some ways kind of thrives off family strife. And so that's just not a good thing.
No, it's definitely not a good thing. And again, I would just stress, I don't see the motivation for Brooklyn and Nicola, or certainly Brooklyn and Nicola's teams, wanting this in the public domain. Whereas I see a huge amount of motivation for Harry and Meghan wanting it in the public domain. Now, Brittany, there's an amazing comedian in the United Kingdom called the Intel Lady. You probably haven't heard of her because she usually tends to do these incredibly witty and satirical mockings of our British politicians, including our Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. But I am so delighted that she has turned her attention to Meghan Markle over this story. It's so funny. Isn't she good? She's just got it so down. She's got it all so down. And you can just imagine, can't you? You can just imagine Meghan saying, we're in the trenches with you. I mean, God, I thought that was brilliant, Brittany.
Yes, and I love the ending where she goes, and yet, yet. I was like, oh, that's so good. But yeah, Brooklyn and Nicola, I mean, I'm wishing them the best of luck, but I think you're right when you were saying, Dan, earlier that they probably didn't want this connection to come out because, like I said, nothing good comes from associating with Harry and Meghan, but they want to drag anybody into it that they can to try to prop themselves up. And it's just another example of that. And to use a young couple going through a difficult family situation, I just find it very sad.
Brittany, let's end with something quite special and fun, which was this amazing moment that a couple of American tourists realized that they had just been on the train with Prince William, the future king, on their first day in England. How crazy is that? First day of their holiday in a first-class carriage with Prince William. They didn't know it, but they did have him on video. But Brittany, I know you're just thinking, oh, well, I've got my selfie. I got my selfie with Catherine, so you missed out.
They did miss out, but I think that's so cool. And it goes to show, too, that royals can travel pretty inconspicuously if they don't draw attention to themselves, because Harry wants this massive security apparatus, which actually draws more attention to him and actually makes him, I think, less secure in some ways. But I have had situations where I've been in England just for fun, where me and my mom, we went to Buckingham Palace. It was about 5 p.m. or so. Prime Minister came in and we saw him go in and we were waiting. And my mom is really good at chatting up the security guy. And he's like, just wait, just wait. And then King Charles Charles came out not too long afterwards, and we got a video with him. I saw a helicopter land behind Kensington Palace, and happened to see Princess Eugenie like a couple days before she gave birth out in the field watching it land with her husband and her son. So there you can capture these magical moments with royals. Just it's entirely possible, just putting that out there for everyone.
Yeah,
it's always fun.
I loved the people who were walking around Balmoral once and just bumped. I think they're American tourists as well, or maybe Brits, and they just bumped into the late Queen. You can. It's very, very special. And I think the great thing now with video is sometimes we can get an insight into these incredible moments, which in the past would have only remained in someone's memory.
This isn't a coincidence.
Has Meghan overplayed her hand in the media world? Let me know what you think in the comments. Was she treated unfairly, or is this a pattern we keep seeing? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real talk on royal drama, fashion fallout, and celebrity showdowns.